Greetings. This is General CJG here, coming to you with, well, a new, I guess you could say, new podcast series for City of Star Wars, similar to, say, when we did Tales of the Jedi, similar to that, but a bit more differently because this time we're tackling books, specifically a book trilogy all about, well, Boba Fett. Why Boba Fett? Just look at your calendar and December 29, 26, one of those days, we're going to have the Book of Boba Fett come out. So, yeah, if this is a déjà vu for you guys, it's because, well, we're going to do another Boba Fett EU sources journey in preparation for the Book of Boba Fett. Yep, we're back at it again. And joining me here to do that is none other than...
Jango Fett.
Yep, indeed. So, without further ado, we shall begin with the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy, with the first book, The Mandalorian Armor. So, let us begin. So, the Django, I guess we should go first into, our thoughts on it, our quick thoughts on the book. What have we thought of it?
Yeah, for sure. This was actually my first experience with the Bounty Hunter Wars, surprisingly, considering I'm a big Boba Fett fan. And I've always seen this like in the bookshelves when I was younger, but I've never gotten a chance to read it. So I thought now is a perfect time with considering the Boba Fett series that, why not? I listened to the audiobook and it didn't take me any time, really, no time whatsoever just to finish it. And pretty good. The first book being The Mandalorian Armor, and a really good, interesting listen or read, whatever you want to call it. Um, but I liked it. It was the introduction for Boba Fett getting out of the Sarlacc pit, and we'll get more in depth with that. But you find out more information about Boba Fett, the life after, with the Return of the Jedi, and then before that point too. So some interesting and good material that will come out from this, and we'll explain more.
Yep. In my case, well, I've heard of the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy before, particularly the second book. I actually have history with it compared to the first book, where I'll get to it a bit more later on. But yeah, this first book, never read before, heard a bit of it. I knew that the very beginning did deal about Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit, but that was it. I didn't know much. I also knew that Prince Shisor was somewhere in here, at least flashback sense. And so, yeah, those two expectations definitely were indeed met. And reading the book, yeah, I thought it was a good read. Yeah, definitely. It certainly was dealing with the scum of the galaxy, or one of the scums of the galaxy, which is the bounty hunters. Which, I mean, unless it's a Boba Fett story, which of course this one is, yeah, you don't really get to see much of that. So, yeah, or a Jango Fett story, because as far as I know, there's not many stories that deal with the bounty hunters themselves, unless it's Jango Fett or Boba Fett, as far as I know.
Mhm.
Or do you know of any
Yeah.
other stories of Jango?
For before you said?
For any bounty hunters, like, are there any specific stories that deal with the bounty hunters that are not focused primarily on Jango Fett or Boba Fett?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Maybe Tales of the Bounty Hunters, but I'm not from. I haven't read those books.
Mm. Yeah, that'd be like the only one I can think of. Yeah. So yeah, this was definitely an interesting read, dealing with how the bounty hunters, well, how they work and everything, especially with the bounty hunters guild. That was kind of a new thing for me because I didn't. I mean, I kind of knew that they had a code of sorts, kinda, thanks to the Blood Ties the first comic. The one that we already tackled before in City of Star Wars, but I didn't know much of it until now. Where basically there's this bounty hunters guild that is led by, well, somebody that we'll get to in a bit. So,
And going with the Bounty Hunters Guild, I have to say something too. I actually had no clue, no idea that Boba Fett was not part of the Bounty Hunters Guild beforehand. I always thought he was always a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild because you always see the bounty hunters, their iconic pose in Empire Strikes Back, and you think they would be together and encounter each other, but no, they're all doing their own thing mostly. But some of them are part of the Bounty Hunter Guild, and Boba Fett, being the one lone guy, and he doesn't believe in, banding together or anything. He's all by himself. So pretty interesting stuff for me.
Yeah, certainly not out of character for Boba Fett to be the only lone
Yeah.
wolf, because
Oh
we
yeah.
rarely see him with partners. So, yeah, that much is true. So yeah. So Django, shall we now get into the story proper and the characters?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we begin with, of course, Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit. Yep, we know this story all too familiar, and yes, he did in the EU, just he did in Disney Star Wars. So I guess you could say a bit of of deja vu for those that are coming from Disney Star Wars. I guess there's that. Which now I gotta mention, while reading through this, there were times that I was wondering, is this like the EU version of what we'll see in the Book of Boba Fett? And let me explain. In the trailer we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, we see Boba Fett with his partner Fennec Shan. They're basically like talking with Jabba's guards and their his bodyguards and all the staff that were left there in the palace, and we also see him roaming around Mos Eisley and everything. Pretty much what he would be doing after escaping the Sarlacc pit, shortly after Mandalorian. And this kind of gives me similar vibes in a way, in which not only are we seeing how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit, but also basically we're seeing how he's dealing with the not the bounty hunter landscape. Well, that's one, but more like how I guess Java's palace, the staff and everything are just coping with what happened in the pit of Carcoon, if you remember, in that battle in Return of the Jedi. So it's kind of like that in a sense, and also we're seeing Boba Fett getting some partners along for his journey. In Disney Star Wars Fennec Shan, here it's Dengar, who is his partner, actually, his bounty hunter
Hmm.
partner. So, so yeah, in a sense, this does feel like this is the EU equivalent to the Book of Boba Fett. And given that it's a trilogy, I think it makes even more sense that it's equivalent of it, since we're gonna have a full TV show in Disney Star Wars version. So yeah.
Yeah, and Dengar and Boba are in quite a bit of stories together. So, I mean, it makes sense with Fennec Shand and Boba Fett.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, and of course we see Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit. He was definitely wounded. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't know if it was Dengar or the female character, the one that they call Neela here, female that used to be a one of the dancers from Java's palace that she escaped. And ended up winding with Dengar and Boba Fett because she wants to talk to Boba Fett to get some more context in regards to who is she, or why does she have this, like, I need to talk to Boba Fett, I need to get some answers or stuff like that. And that info will later be revealed in the next two books, of course, but we get small hints of it. But so yeah.
Also, it is worth mentioning that I know CJ will get into that, but it does switch between timelines. So
Yes.
on flashbacks. So the one on the events of what's happening to Boba Fett after Return of the Jedi, that's the present time, and it's also like 4 ABY. And then we'll switch into different times where it's going to be 0 ABY, and that time will change as well to before 4 ABY to the present time, which is with him surviving the Sarlacc pit.
Mhm. Yeah, so this book basically it deals with the present time of when Boba Fett escaped, and then it deals with flashbacks. It's basically the flashbacks are meant to, I guess, in a way, not foreshadow, but definitely explain why these certain events are happening in the present. In particular, to one character called Kuat of Kuat, which he is basically the CEO of Kuat Drive Yards. And for those that know any Star Wars lore, they know that Quad Drive Yards is one of the big corporations that build all sorts of equipment, including the Empire Star Destroyers. So, yeah, they're a big deal. So,
Yeah, and if someone like that is pissed off with Boba Fett, that
finally.
says something right there.
Yeah, because Quad of Quad wants Boba Fett dead for good. So the fact that he considers Boba Fett alive is, yeah, it's cause for concern.
And plus, he's not convinced if Boba Fett is dead that he wants to see the body himself. So that's important too, because he knows that Boba Fett can't just die just like that.
uh, which that will be something funny that I'm gonna mention later because at the end of the book, because I found it a bit hilarious. But I'll talk about it later. So that's what's going on. In the beginning, Fett was definitely in a comatose state with Dengar, two droids, and Neela taking care of him, basically treating his wounds and everything, getting supplies. And in the flashbacks, we see Boba basically taking on one job, getting a bounty on a certain guy called Neil Posondium. And I love how like Bosk and Suckers were like working together to nav Neil Posondum, and they're ready to get their plan. And then Boba Fett just like was faster and smarter than both of them and managed to get his target. And Bosk is like, Fett, I'm gonna kill you. By the way, that is something prevalent in this book. Bosk hates the shit out of Boba Fett, which, yeah, I don't blame him.
And he's always considered number two when it comes to bounty hunters, and Boba always has the upper hand against Voss.
I didn't know that Bosk was number two. I mean, I knew he was in top five, but I didn't know he was like. Is he actually considered number two in the galaxy? Because I don't know about that.
Well, I guess in their bounty hunter circles, they are like Bosk is, but I don't know if he's really like competent enough to be considered like slightly below Boba Fett. It's kind of hard to say.
Especially since Boba Fett is, well, Boba Fett. The only one that I could say compares to him would be, of course, his own father, Jango Fett.
Yep.
So, indeed. So, yeah. And Boba manages to get Neo Pasondim, and he delivers him to this spider guy called Kudar Mubat. Yeah, that big spider.
Adar Mobatu? No, Nobat, yeah.
Yeah, Kudar Mubat. Apparently, it's a big spider. There is some sort of a middleman of sorts for any sort of business type operations for smugglers, bounty hunters, not legal stuff. So, yeah. So, right off the bat, what do you think, the Django, of all of this?
It's very intriguing. Like, I didn't think this would be like shown in like this type of like with the bounty hunters and stuff, but there's a lot of intrigue and mystery that is involved with this. And it's very like criminal thriller-esque. And I like it. It's not like what I thought was going to happen with these types of typical books when it comes to Boba Fett and such is like just run and gun and just him being a badass like we've seen in the comics and such. But no, this is something completely different, and I'm all in. And this leads me more excited to see how they approach it with the TV series as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Indeed, definitely. And by the way, this Kudar Mubat, I don't know if you've seen pictures of this big spider. There are some some official pictures. And besides him looking creepy as hell, he has all these mini spiders that apparently is like his notes full of like information and stuff. And one of them is like apparently keeping tabs on all the credits and stuff. Like, that's one hell of a place. And Kudar Mubat's location is apparently a huge like web of sorts that's in space. Actually, it's called the Ghostling Nest. Like, that is like it's not even like a planet or anything. No, it's like it's described as a giant tubular shaped web that's drifting through the space. Like, that is something, and I don't even know how the hell that even has any sort of oxygen for Boba Fett or others to breathe in. Like,
Yeah.
that's something. So, yeah. Do you want the Django to mention what Prince Shizor has to do with this? Because he's in these flashbacks.
Okay. So Prince Caesar, I had no clue. I thought this was like kind of like a different Feline, but due to the flashbacks and stuff, Prince Caesar is indeed in the story, and yeah, that caught me off guard completely when he came up. So that was really a surprise to me. There's a lot of surprises throughout in this book, I must say.
Mm-hmm.
So the Emperor meets with Darth Vader and Zizor, and Zizor has a plan where he wants for Fett to join the guild, the Bounty Hunters Guild. And Caesar reveals that he would eliminate the guild in that process and leave only the best bounty hunters. And he's doing it in a really cunning way, where he would just have Boba Fett just come in and see what happens from there. And the bounty hunters would respond from that point, because Boba Fett has always been a lone figure and is not known to be joining the guild. But if he joins the guild, that must mean something big. So we'll explain a little bit more with the deception and treachery that involves with that. But he does this because he wants to gain more power, and also to spite Darth Vader, because Vader wants just he doesn't care, like he wants his own thing. But Caesar does this so he can gain more power through his Black Sun network. So that's really the only really way. And plus, if the Emperor listens to him more, then he can get more power and he can just deal with Vader later on. But he loves seeing Vader destroyed in any way and hurt in his any way he can because of what Vader did in, if you know, in Shadows of the Empire. That's a big deal.
Well, keep in mind that the flashbacks here apparently take place 1 or 2 years before the events of Shadows of the Empire. So actually, what we're seeing here is happening sometime in between episodes 4 and 5, somewhere in there. So.
Well, the thing is too, like they mentioned that in the flashbacks, they do mention that his kind was obliterated,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that is indeed a reference to some info that shows the Empire made, though that specific event was actually many years before even the original trilogy. So chronologically, it
oh,
happened way before. So it's not actually this book like mentioning the events of Shadows of the Empire. No, because that's impossible because Shisor died at the end of Shadows of the Empire. So this book cannot, at least flashback wise, cannot take place after Shadows of the Empire. So it has.
yeah, of course. What I meant is that this would build up for Shadows of the Empire, but the events of what happened with the planet, with the Faline planet, you know, with his whole family being decimated in the process because of Vader, that will lead to him, Prince Caesar, having a super vendetta against Vader.
I think he already has it. So
Yeah.
there's that. Now, something that, yeah, obviously Shishor definitely would benefit from Black Sun having more control by getting rid of the Bounty Hunters Guild. But in a way, he managed to convince Palpatine that by doing that, he could have the Bounty Hunters be like more fearsome and less depending on each other and more basically being just as fearsome and just as tough as Boba Fett. Like, basically somehow convinced Palpatine by telling him if the bounty hunters no longer have this guild to pretty much watch their backs, they might be more fierce, more stronger, more cunning, and they'll be perfect tools for us to use to control the galaxy. And Palpatine at first was like, bounty hunters, really? But the more Shizor talked, the more was like, you have a point, Shizor. You know what? Yeah, carry on with your plan. And Vader's like,
He's like, this is a waste of time, and you're listening to him, like, and the Emperor's like, nah, I listen to whoever has come with, clever plans and such, and Prince Caesar has those, unlike you.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing there, though, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, indeed. So that was one bit that I like seeing. So yeah, so all this bounty hunter wars is basically a plot from Shisor, which, I mean, we thought we saw the most out of him from Shadows of the Empire, but no, apparently he did something big before even those events. So that's very interesting. And I like how when Boba Fett was like talking to Kadar Mubat, and Kadar was like, I have a big offer for you, one really big. And Boba Fett's like, I'm listening. And then Kadar's like, this offer here. What you gotta do is join the Bounty Hunters Guild. Fett's like, this will cost you a lot. Because shortly before Fett was like talking to Karmua, Fett was like thinking in his mind like the Bounty Hunters Guild, waste of time. They're just so greedy and they just like have no standards in the same way as Fett has. So he never considered joining them. And then Karmua was like, join the Bounty, and he's like, you better have a very good reason for this. And of course, moments later, he then got the reason, and it was to destroy the Bounty Hunters Guild from inside. That was his entire purpose.
Yeah, and also the thing is too, guys, like when it comes to bounty hunters, they wanted a simple. Well, when they get the contract, they want to just eliminate the target or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But after that point, they don't want to have to go back to that the client and then be betrayed because they'll be. I mean, because that's a whole lot of mess for them too to deal with. And I mean, the way that Godormabot approached it was just very extremely shady. So in that sense, you can see why Fett is very hesitant at first, and then he's like demanding more money. Because like if this backfires, then I'm gonna go after your ass, and you're not gonna see, like you're never going to come out of this alive.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
And plus, he gets extra money too.
That too. So there is that. So yeah, that was the flashbacks of that. So this is interesting stuff. What do you think, the Django? This is getting into like some hot waters here for the bounty hunters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And Zizor is involved, the Black Sun. Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the part where Kuat of Kuat has his reasons too. We'll actually uncover that a little bit more in the next book, I think.
The next two.
But for now, we actually don't know his reasons why he's come to this point. That's really intriguing to me, and I can't wait to find out more about that.
Yeah. The only thing we get about Court of Quad is that he had something to do with the bounty hunter wars, but that's it. That's all we know. So we don't know much yet. We'll have to see. So yeah. Then moving on from those flashbacks, we then get to back to the present time, and apparently they're still trying to like nurse Boba Fett back, and then Neela joins Dengar and the others. She has her own reasons why talk to Boba Fett, as I mentioned before. She also seems to be involved with the Bounty Hunter Wars some way, because apparently she remembers that one of Boba Fett's previous bounties was Neil Posondum, which that's some big stuff, because that was his bounty before he got assigned to destroy the Bounty Hunters Guild, which goes to show what the hell happened. This is gonna get very interesting once we get to the second and third books, and why Neela was, involved in this in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah. So indeed. So Django, do you want to get to the next part of the flashback, which it's one that I find a bit hilarious but also mind blowing, and it is, well, Fett joining the Bounty Hunters Guild.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So with the Bounty Hunters Guild, we actually have not Bosk, but his father leading the guild, Kradosk. And Bosk and Kradosk have a bit of a beef with one another. And Kradosk invites Boba Fett, and he wants him to join his side. So Boba Fett, as he joins the guild, he is welcomed by Kradosk, and they have a feast together, everyone. And Bosk is very hesitant about the whole thing. He does not trust Boba Fett at all, because he knows something is up. Because Boba Fett cannot be just joining the guild out of nowhere and just be like, hey, I want to make good terms, I want to join the guild. No, that's not his style at all. For me, that's what I discovered. So he's the only one that's very hesitant about the whole thing. Now, as soon as Boba Fett comes into it, he wants to just, settle in a room, and he does so. And while this is happening, there's a lot of backstabbing that is about to happen, with Kardosk wanting to kill his son, Bosk.
Oh, yeah.
So that's involved. Zuckuss wanting, actually shooting Bosk, and when he comes back, and Bosk comes back, Bosk is still alive, and he goes to his father and kills his father right then and there.
got a bit forward right there, a bit fast forward there, but yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, Bosk ended up killing his father. We'll get into more details into that later. But
Yeah.
no, what I wanted to discuss was Fed literally joining the guild and how everyone was like reacting to it. Like everyone's like, "Yay!" and Bosk is like, "He's lying. There's no way he'd ever join us. He has some nefarious plan." Like
Yep.
that was funny. Yeah. Oh, but wanna know what was even more funny? Before even that happened, like Bosk and Suckers were like waiting in space in the Hound's tube, Bosk's ship, and they were like, Fed is gonna join in. He's gonna come right soon. And then the Slave One arrives, and Bosk like shoots it out of the sky, and then they're like investigating, and they see, oh wait, it's a decoy, and then the real Slave One shows up, and it's a decoy, and the decoy explodes in their faces, leaving them adrift in space. And the real Slave One is like going down to the Bounty Hunters Guild planet, and was like, Fat. I love that. Like Fett managed to literally one up Bosk on that one.
When doesn't he one up on Bosk?
No. Oh my, that was hilarious. And Suckers did have a good point. Like maybe we should leave the ship alone. Like was like, no, I'm gonna shoot it, and it shoots it. And it's like, oh, it's a decoy. Fuck. Oh my god, that's hilarious. So yeah, but yeah, so Kratos, yep, he received boss, he received Boba Fett in the guild and everything, and that speech that Boba Fett did is like you'd never hear Boba Fett do that legitimately, and it's because he didn't mean it. He was just trying to get just convinced him to join the guild for his own plan, which I guess Boss had a good feeling on that, like. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and he joined, and yeah, the backstabbing had started because then Boss decided to show up in Boba Fett's own quarters and offer him a partnership of sorts in order to take control of the Bounty Hunters Guild.
Yeah, and while this is happening, there before that point, there were actually shootings and bounty hunters were killing each other during that point too. So yeah, that I mean, already right off the bat, as soon as Boba Fett comes into there, there's already like a lot of backstabbings, not just with Kratos and Bosk, but with other bounty hunters too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed, and then apparently Kratos thought that he was gonna like he had everything under control, that Bosk was gonna be the one killed and everything, and like no, yeah, Kratos ended up being the one beating the dust. So like so much backstabbing and stuff. So yeah, so what do you think of all of that in regards to Boba Fett joining the guild, like all that?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out, but I wonder how he's gonna get out of this. That's the thing I'm really interested in because yes, he's gonna join the guild, but what else is there with that? Is he going to destroy the guild from within? What is he going to aid the guild? I'm really interested to see how it plays out with book two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, and then I'm also interested in seeing how this. Well, we'll get into a bit into how what happened later on in this book. So yeah, and then we flash forward to the present, and apparently there's this big bombing run that assaulted Dengar's hideout. And Dengar, Neela, Boba Fett, the two medical droids, were forced to flee from the bombing run, and they pretty much were like fleeing the place, and they almost got out of the hideout onto the surface until they apparently found that one piece of the Sarlacc was alive. Yeah, alive. Because supposedly Boba Fett had destroyed the Sarlacc from within, because he was inside his stomach, and Boba Fett blasted the shit out of it when he got out. But no, apparently the Sarlacc somehow regenerated at least one of its parts and assaulted the team, but they managed to drive it off and escape alive. So
Just barely, because Boba Fett actually, I mean, like he's decimated at this point. He's not like doing anything. He is just still like just devastated after the Sarlacc, just barely coming out with inches of his life. And now Dengar is, and Neela are assisting him, and he's literally on this bed that they're lifting up. And then at the last moment, something kicks in, some adrenaline or something, and he grazes this blaster that he catches in the midair from Dengar, who just freaking clumsy and stuff, just drops it or something. I think the ground was shaking at that time, but he grabs it and he shoots the Sarlacc once again and killing the Sarlacc a second time practically.
yeah, like out of all the beings that the Sarlacc pretty much the Sarlacc has eaten, only one of them ended up being its own downfall. Boba Fett. How interesting. Makes you wonder how it would have been if somebody even more dangerous than Boba Fett had gone inside the Sarlacc's stomach. Like Darth Vader or something. Oh, Darth Vader would just use the Force to just obliterate the entire shit with the Force repulse. That would have been
Yeah, that would
something.
be nothing to.
Yeah, indeed. So there is that. And yeah, that's the flash forward. And the bombing run, by the way, was not from the Imperials. It was from the Kuat Drive Yards squadron. Yeah, Kuat of Kuat apparently ordered a bombing run on the Dune Sands, where the Sarlacc used to be, in order to make sure that Boba Fett was dead for good. Because Kuat literally does not want Boba Fett alive for some reason.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that plays out. I really want to know why. Like this is a really powerful man. He has a lot of power within the Empire, and for some reason he's pissed off with Boba Fett. He must have done something really bad to him and hurt him pretty badly, to make him want to kill Boba Fett in this way.
Yeah, like it had to be something really bad. So yeah, we'll definitely see what happened. So that'll be interesting. Then we flash back. Yeah, you could say pun intended. So basically, we flash back to Boba Fett basically being, I guess, going to do this one bounty, this big bounty that apparently was gonna make them all riches and stuff. And it was about a specific person called Opnar Dinit that he apparently had some sort of like he was a Levnesicom handler, and he basically was somebody that had a like a chip in his mind or something, and basically had all sorts of information regarding the shell huts. It was priceless information that any person that got his hands on this man, he would pretty much be a big moneymaker. Either it was for the shell huts or for the opposition of the shell huts. So he was really valuable. So Boba Fett, he got news, and the Bounty Hunters Guild got news of this man, and they wanted to pretty much get that bounty. So they wanted that man, they wanted to take him to whomever would cash out. And because this man was already in the hands of the shell huts in their homeworld circum tour, they had to pretty much, well, take the man from them and sell into the competition of the shell huts. And that would pay lots of money. So, yeah, just imagine how much that would be, the Django.
Yes, yeah. I mean, boundless. You would think.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So there is that. And Boba Fett, he could have done this by himself, but let's just say he decided to make a team. He basically told Bosk, Suckus, IG-88, and somebody new to this book, and I guess Star Wars in general, is somebody called D. Harhan, which is a male Niordi bounty hunter from the planet Niordi. So yeah, that's the team. Those five individuals, they were pretty much going to do this entire operation. So this is definitely interesting, and yeah, this probably would be one of the very few times that we see Boba Fett with some sort of not partner team, because partners he probably has had a few before, but a team, nah. I think this is one of the first times. So, yep, a team of
Yeah.
bounty hunters. You know that's definitely fun. The only time I can see something like that is in Lego Star Wars. So there's that. So yeah, so that's the plan. Basically, get into Circontor and take Onar Dinit. Onar Dinit. So, yep, those are the stakes. And the Django, what do you think? Do you think this will go well or not?
Well, something's gonna happen that is gonna piss Bosk off because like he's always been pissed off with Boba Fett, but like I think after this, like especially like the flashbacks with dealing with Bosk and Boba Fett and the Bounty Hunters Guild, he's gonna be even more pissed off than ever. Like he is going to be, he's never gonna forgive Boba Fett at all.
Like if you will
So,
ever do it.
yeah, so something's gonna happen, something big.
Indeed. So yeah. Okay, the Operation Circumtor. So okay, so the Django, do you want to go from the very beginning? From I guess the negotiations they had in the slave one. That's the very beginning of this. I guess we should start with that. So the Django, do you want to narrate or shall I say it?
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Okay, so basically, the bounty hunters team they were pretty much aboard Slave One, and yeah, Bosk also had his ship Houndstooth, and they pretty much were like planning what to do. And both of them managed to get in touch with the shell huts, and they pretty much sent a messenger to pretty much negotiate the price, bounty, everything. And the shell huts, they sent one simple negotiator, one shell hut, which was Geta. That's the name of the hut. And Geta, well, he had history of Boba Fett. Not kind one. So, but Geta seemed to show some restraint here, and they were pretty much talking business and stuff, and yeah. Oh, and Bosk in particular, though all the bounty hunters, Suckus, IG-88, and Doran. But Bosk in particular, they were like, oh, we're not gonna let you leave this ship that easily. but he was like, you'll make go because I got here this big powerful explosives primed and ready in case you even touch me. So yeah, you'll let me go. And yeah, because apparently they didn't want him to let go after he pretty much was not wanting to offer Ovnar Dinit. So that was why. But they had to get that go and follow him to Circumtor in order to make the negotiations. And the catch with on Circumtor was go unarmed. So that meant the bounty hunters had to literally leave their weapons behind. And Fett even had to go as far as literally removing the power core of the Harhan's cybernetic exoskeleton that had the humongous cannon in it. Like, he had to disarm him and pretty much just leave him as just a walking pile of metal, apparently. So yeah, had to disarm him, and everyone had to go in unarmed there in Circumtor. They get there and they get scanned, they get ready, and they're like, yeah, sure. So they managed to let him in, and they were getting to the hall. They were getting into the hall of, well, the shell huts, I guess you could say, their dining hall or negotiations, whatever. One odd thing they noticed that there's a awful lot of armed mercenaries ready, like not shell huts or their bodyguard, no, mercenaries, like hired mercenaries with all sorts of expensive weaponry ready to shoot at somebody or to protect somebody from something. Things were not looking well, and they got into the main place that they were going to make negotiations. Geta was getting a bit too, let's just say, his mental stability was getting off the charts. He was getting pretty angry and pretty agitated, almost vengeful. So, yeah, he was not getting too patient or nothing like that. He was just angry, and he was like going on and about how I like how this man Boba Fett, he was like, has humiliated me in the past, and how I had to pretty much deal with his humiliation with my predecessor, and he like. His vengeful state was like getting the best of Geta to the point at which like Geta decided to show off Nar Dinnet there in front of Bounty Hunters. But there is one big catch. Nar Dinnet was dead. Yes, Nar Dinnet was dead. The one man that the Bounty Hunters came in there all this time, and he was dead. Like, straight up carcass shown there in front of them, and everyone was surprised. The shell huts in particular were like, what the fuck, what did you do? He was worth billions to us, you idiot. And Geta was like, don't worry about it, I already made deals to have him dead, we'll have some money in no time. I was like, but you idiot, he was worth millions. Like, the shell huts were like, you moron, what have you done? Your vengeance has gone too far at this point. Like, all the shell huts were like shocked and pissed. Like, holy shit. Like, oh my god, that is. And by one of the shell huts, pretty much him being killed. Like, if it was the bounty hunters just stealing them, that'd be something. But the fact that it was the one leading the shell huts, that was like, yeah. That definitely would not go well. So, and then, well, the real reason Geta pretty much was still willing to do his negotiations with the bounty hunters and even go as far as showing the dead of Nar Dinnet was because he had in mind to killing them. Killing the bounty hunters, Boba Fett in particular, because of his long vendetta against Boba Fett. So yeah. And one thing that the bounty hunters noticed that Fett all along knew that Nar Dinnet was dead. Not only because Fett admitted it, but because Bosk managed to scan the corpse and he saw that the carcass was dead for several weeks. So they pretty much just went there in a death wish of sorts, or a suicidal attempt. But one, the Boba Fett knew that they were going to get out of there alive. At least him. Don't know about the others, but yeah, he knew he would get alive. So yeah, the entire attempt was some sort of suicide, and after that, well, Bosk pretty much got aggressive, managed to grab a blaster rifle from one of the mercenaries, and the shooting begun. And everyone was shooting at each other. Suckers, IG-88, Bosk got their rifles, and the Harhan, he was like just wishing that he had a power core to activate his guns. Thankfully, Boba Fett, he keyed on some sort of keypad he had in his wrist, and a container of sorts arrived from the sky, and he pretty much opened it and put a power core inside the Harhan, and he started shooting his big ass blaster, and a big humongous bloodshed happened. And the only survivors were some of the shell huts, the bounty hunters, except Darhan. The Harhan actually died, and Geta also died too. So big massacre, all just to kill Geta and the mercenaries. So that was the result. So, yeah, what do you think of that, Django? That big massacre?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way Boba Fett can treat his other teammates as well, and keep them in the dark with this whole thing. You you wonder why the rest of them might be a little ticked off with Boba Fett.
Yep. Because Boba Fett doesn't like telling their entire plans to any partners of his. I think Dengar got the closest after this story arc. But other than that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's of course a reason for that. I mean, there's more trust with him, and after that point, yeah.
Indeed. So the other one would be Connor Freeman from the Blood Ties comics, but that's about it as far as I know. So
Yeah.
there is that. So yeah, the big bloodshed happened. There was also what now? Okay, now we're gonna go back to what you want to talk about, the Django, Kratos' death at the hands of Bosk. So shortly after this humongous massacre in Circumtor, well, Suckers returned to talk to Kratos in regards to how it went, and the only result out of it was that Suckers managed to convince Kratos that Bosk died, that he got a blaster bolt in his chest, and he never got up from that. Like, he died. Except that there's a bit of a lie in there, and well, that lie pretty much ended up being revealed when Bosk pretty much showed up, and he pretty much heard how Kratos wanted to kill several members of the Bounty Hunters Guild in order to strengthen the guild and strengthen his leadership on it, with Bosk being one of those individuals that he wanted dead. And Bosk didn't like hearing that, so he pretty much killed his father with his own hands. And from there, well, the Bounty Hunter War started. Yeah, that was some some bloodshed around there. So yeah, so that was the end of the flashbacks. So what do you think, the Django, of all that, the flashbacks?
Yeah, and there's allegiances set, and Bosk has his own allegiance, and he has his own team, and then you have Kradosk, and him and his elders. So of course there's like this big duel between all of them. So well, not so much a duel, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, Bosk comes out winning the whole thing, and we'll see how. I mean, the Bounty Hunters Guild is not going to survive for too long, so we'll see how that pays out, because Bosk is not really let's just say, a capable leader.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thanks to the flash forward, the present in this book, we know the Bounty Hunters Guild pretty much didn't survive. It pretty much died off. So in the events of the present, it's confirmed when Bosk was like talking to himself in the Houndstooth that pretty much the Bounty Hunters Guild is no more. They're all left on their own. So let's just say that plan to destroy the Bounty Hunters Guild ended up being a success. So we'll see how that success went in the next two books when we get to the flashbacks. So that much is there. Now, going back to the present, aside from Bosk making an appearance, Dengar was out doing some errands on Mos Eisley, pretty much searching for all sorts of equipment that Boba Fett could use in order to restore his comlink with his Slave One. But he also decided to do something else that was not part of the plan, and that was get a message to Kuat of Kuat, an encrypted message that pretty much just said Boba Fett is alive. And that definitely didn't go that well, because aside from that message going to the one person that wants Boba Fett Instead, it also attracted some unwanted attention towards the bounty hunters right before they even had a chance to properly get out of Tatooine, because apparently two mercenaries decided to follow Dengar and try to kill Boba Fett and kill Dengar and Illa. And they obviously failed because they were nowhere near as smart as any of those three, in particular Boba Fett. So I think Dengar made a kind of a mistake there in trying to double cross Boba Fett. Cause yeah, don't double cross Boba Fett. Like, don't do it.
Yeah, and especially if Boba Fett finds out, oh boy, it's going to be much worse for you. And it's also worth noting that, I mean, the fact that Dengar actually knew about Boba Fett and Kuat of Kuat shows that this must be bigger than this vendetta between one another. There must be something more, because like that the fact that people like Dengar knows, I mean, that says something right there.
Dengar has his suspicions because apparently one of the bombs in the bombing run ended up being a dot,
Oh
and
yes, yeah, he finds
apparently.
out that
Mhm.
the serial number and the information from that. Yep.
Hmm. So basically, he had his own assumptions. I don't think he was actually working for Quad of Quad. It's more like he just
Yeah,
has his own assumptions.
just so he can get some money. Yeah.
Yeah, because of course, bounty hunters, yeah, they like backstabbing each other because that's what they do. Hence why Boba Fett likes to be a lone wolf. So,
Yeah, and I mean, in that situation with Boba Fett, I mean, he's like inches away from dying. So like, if he can take any help he can get, I mean, just do it. Like, you want to live for another day and get your revenge or whatever. You want to live. But it's also interesting, like, to see how it's not really shown like what the time, like how many days he kind of recovered or however long it was, but he recovered pretty quickly in comparison to how I think Disney Star Wars is doing. So it's really saying that how much he's recovering in his strength.
mhm.
I don't know how the armor is in comparison, but uh, yeah, I mean the fact that he's kind of like almost, I wouldn't say like he's 100%, but he's like
He's close.
his strength is back. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, from what I know, he definitely has his armor fully. At least he's fully back in action. At least 1 year later, thanks to the comic where he pretty much kills Jodocast. That was the one that pretty much impersonated Boba Fett, and Boba Fett pretty much took his life. So yeah, it's 1 year here in the EU. And this is Star Wars. It was like five because Mandalorian Season 2 takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So like he lasted for like 5 years in Tatooine, just waiting to get finding his armor. That's
Yeah.
something. So.
And plus, he wasn't like fully recovered. Like you could see that on his face. Still has like the scars and stuff. And
Mhm.
then we'll see at after the Mandalorian. Then you'll see with
Book of Boba
then
Fett.
the Book of Boba Fett. You'll see like some of the scars are starting to heal up. So you are seeing a noticeable difference as he's like recovering and stuff.
Hmm. Indeed, yeah. Indeed. Final piece of this book. Well, Bosk was on orbit on Tatooine in House Tooth, thinking about what happened before the Bounty Hunter Wars, and he spots a Slave One orbiting in Tatooine, not doing anything, and he decided to hire some sort of a security slicer to pretty much disable all of the booby traps that Boba Fett puts in Slave One because it's Boba Fett. Why? Like his ship is definitely valuable for any sort of mercenary or bounty hunter. So he, of course, will have that ship booby trapped to no end for those that want to get in there. So yeah, Bosk pretty much hired that security slicer, and he did a pretty good job. And Bosk finds several things. First, he finds all sorts of all sorts of logs and info that he would certainly want to put in his ship's mainframe for later read. But he also finds this little droid that apparently that he basically like it was there stuck somewhere behind a door, and he checks it, and he finds several things about the droid. First, that it was made by Kua Drive Yards, which is interesting that a droid from Kua Drive Yards is there. Like, that's the first thing. And especially considering that prior to this, Bosk pretty much found the encrypted message that was going to be sent to Quad of Quad, the one that said Boba Fett is alive. Bosk had yet to read that message. He only saw to who it was being sent. So he found interesting the message. And then he saw that the droid apparently had a hologram recording of Luke Skywalker pretty much checking out his burning homestead and seeing it being burned and the remains of his uncle and aunt. Yeah, like that scene in which we see Luke arriving at the burning homestead and seeing his uncle and aunt die. Like, apparently this droid somehow recorded it. And somehow that droid ended up being Boba Fett's ship 4 years later. That surprises me. But here's the even more puzzling part. The droid also had a record of having analyzed some sort of pheromones that came from a male Fauline. Like, what is going on here? Oh, what do you think, the Django?
I would harbor a guess that this is going to go to uh, a certain prince out there eventually.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So the next book, Slave Ship, will probably have the answers, given the she source in the cover of that book. So that'll be interesting. So, and Boss is also on that cover too, so that'll be interesting. And then Boss goes back to his ship, and he finally decided to read the encrypted message. And once he reads it, he's like, "No!
Boba Fett is alive.
And he's like, "No, no, it can't be true, but it's true." Ah! He threw like the biggest tantrum ever. Because the one thing he wanted the most, Boba Fett dead, no. Hey, boss, don't worry. There's plenty of sympathizers out there. I know there's plenty of EU haters that also wanted him dead inside the Sarlacc pit. So you ain't the only one, buddy. So yeah, there is that. And his fear of Boba Fett actually being alive ended up being true because Slave One started to move by itself and literally pick up Boba Fett, and then it escaped. So yeah, too bad.
Now, doesn't Bosk set up like an arming device or something?
No,
Like,
it was just he was like after he like just realized that the Boba Fett is alive, and after the tantrum, he was like stuck in his ship. He did make the Hounds too of pretty much no longer be attached to the Slave One, and once he finished detaching the ship from the Slave One decided to drift by itself and pick up Boba Fett, and then it escaped. And Bosk was like thinking in his mind, "I'll kill you, Fett. This time I'll kill you for good." But there was just one thing left his mind. Why is Bosk still afraid? Yeah. I think things will get really interesting in the second book. Like, this definitely makes me interested in reading the second book. Like, this will be fun. So, that's pretty much the end of the events of this book. And what do you think, Django?
I thought it was a really good and fun read, and definitely there's some cliffhangers for book two. There's a lot of answers that need to be. There's a lot of things that need to be answered for sure. But as a first start into Boba Fett, and then the Bounty Hunters Guild and the Black Sun, and it's a really interesting book. I'm glad to have I'm just shocked that I've never really read this before, but hey, I'm doing it now, and for the first time I'm reading it, I always enjoy these a lot more than compared to rereading it again and liking it, or may not be liking it the second time. But for the first time reading this, or listening to it, I should say, it was fun. I enjoyed the hell out of this. This is just a great read.
For me, it definitely was a good read. Definitely not on my top 10 or 20 books, but then again, that's no fault of that's not fault of the author and everything. I mean, when you compare against James Luceno and all the other authors, like, they're just like leagues better. But the author did a good job, and for a trilogy, it definitely got me interested in the next two books. So yep, it did a good job, and I definitely am interested in reading more, especially the second book, since I have some history with it. So I definitely want to be interested in reading it. So this will be fun. Now,
Yeah.
one thing that's left for us to do before we finish this podcast: EU connections with this book and into the entirety of the EU timeline. So, the Django, shall you want to go first with this, or shall I go?
Yeah, you might as well go.
Okay, well, let's go with the obvious one: Prince Shisor, Black
Yep.
Sun, Shadows of the Empire. There's no way out of it. Those are obvious. Like, there's no way around that. Boba Fett surviving the Sarlacc pit, Dengar finding him, and like and also pretty much, and also some other stuff in regards to the stories of the Tales of Bounty Hunters. Yeah, so apparently, this book definitely references Tales of the Bounty Hunters, besides with Boba Fett surviving. But apparently, it also references the prize spell, the Tale of Bosk, because Houndstooth, Bosk's ship, it actually first appeared there. So, yep, that's one appearance right at the bat. Bosk's ship, it appears there, and yep, so there's that. Of course, then, well, okay, this is interesting. D. Harhan, the male Neordi bounty hunter, the one that was mostly cyborg with a humongous cannon, he actually appears, his first appearance is here, but he actually appears in The Last of the Jedi, two books in particular, Desperate Mission and Dark Warning. Who would have thought that he appeared in 1918 BBY? That's something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I got plenty of others, but the Django, if you got some, then you can mention them.
Yeah, the only one I could think of was the Prince Ezor one.
Well, there's that. Well, Kratos, Bosk's father, first appears here, but he appears in Bounty Hunters, Aura Sync comic, Star Wars Adventures 4, 5, 6, Clone Wars, aka TCW, Secret Missions 2, Star Wars Clone Wars Comic UK, and several other reference books, like, for example, the Complete Star Wars Cyclopedia, New Essential Guide to Characters, Aura Sync, Dawn of the Bounty Hunters. That's one that's actually referenced a lot. The Essential Reader's Companion, The Bounty Hunter's Code from the Files of Boba Fett, and several others. So, yep. So, and would you believe me that Kratos actually has history with Jango Fett?
That wouldn't be surprising considering he's a pretty old bounty hunter and before the time of Boba Fett and before the time of Bosk. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep, indeed. And then there are some other. I already mentioned the guides, Complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, the Essential Guide to Warfare, Essential Raiders Companion, the New Essential Chronology. Like, all of those get referenced here. They reference these events, so they pretty much confirm that they are indeed canon to the EU, especially the New Essential Chronology and Essential Raiders Companion. Kudar Mudat referenced in RSing, Dawn of the Bounty Hunters, Guide to Alien Species, Complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, like all of those. And Ghostling Nest the Assembler, same. No difference there, though. Actually, the Bounty Hunters Code actually identifies this place as the Ghostling Nest of the Assembler. So the actual name, apparently, is from there. But before, it was just called the Ghostling Nest, which interesting. Then, of course, Kuat of Kuat, the hereditary title of the head of the house Kuat and Kuat Drive Yards. It actually first appears here, and it has mentioned in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, the hereditary title of the Kuat Drive Yards, first mentioned here, and it appears in Revenge of the Sith. There's that for you there. And Kuat of Kuat, aka Kuat himself, New Essential Guide to Characters, Platt's Starport Guide, though it says the retcon, Star Wars Gamer 6, of course, and the New Essential Atlas, Essential Chronology, like several guides. And then the two droids, the two medical droids that helped Dengar nurse Boba Fett back from almost death. The first one, the one that was called 1EXE, that type of droids actually first appeared in Riders of the Maelstrom, which that is basically a role-playing game book written by Ray Winninger from 1989. Basically, Western Games. Yep, that there's that. And the next other droid, the MD5, that shows up in the Mandalorian Armor, is called She 1B. And that type of droid first appeared in Jedi's Honor, which is another Western Games, written by Troy Denning, surprisingly. Yeah, before he even wrote in any books for Star Wars. So, yep, there is that. And then we got some other, for example, Circumtor, aka the location where the shell huts were, first appears here, and several sources, including Lords of Nalhata, which is apparently a regional supplement for Fantasy Flight's Edge of Empire. Interesting. And of course, all the guides. The shell huts themselves. Okay, this one's an interesting one, the Django. They first appear here. They actually are mentioned in the New Jedi Order Ages of Chaos 2, several essential guides, Lords of Nahota, and they appear in Republic Commando Triple Zero. Yep, they appear in that
Hmm.
Republic Commando book. Which that yeah, that's something. So I guess this book definitely made an impact in regards to, well, that new species of huts. So there's that, and of course, how can we not mention that the Kuats, the Kuati, they pretty much were. It seems that their first appearance was X-wing Wedge's Gamble, though as an impersonation, because there's no like a there's like no mentions of them appearing in any of the movies except for Revenge of the Sith and Attack the Clones, but of course those came later. So their first appearance would be X-wing Wedge's Gamble, though they also do show up in I Jedi Inspector and Spectre of the Past. So there's that too. And then the Kua Drive Yards. So their first appearance in Star Wars Adventure Journal 9. So basically another one of Western games. And then the Kuat, the planet Kuat, first mentioned here, the same Star Wars Adventure Journal 9. So, yep, there's that. And well, of Nardinit, Aura Singh, Dawn of the Bounty Hunters, the feelings, the furry cats, the one that Quad of Quad has a pet. Well, his first appearance is here, but he actually has multiple mentions in the Old Republic Fatal Alliance, the MMORPG, Star Wars Adventures 5, Clone Wars, the Gambit Duology, and The Last of Jedi Secret Weapon. And even Geonosis and the Outer Rim Worlds, and Essential Atlas, and Essential Guide to Warfare. Yup, the feelings apparently is one big reference. So there's that. And the last one I got was Big G's, if you remember the Django. Big G's from the Shadows of the Empire comic, as well as the Java Tape comic. He was mentioned here. So there's another one, another reference there.
And he was not the swoop rider that wanted to attack Boba Fett.
No, that was another one.
In that time. Yeah, yeah. And it was funny because like when the actual the swoop riders came, I was thinking of Big Jizz, but it was not him. I can't get over that name.
Yeah. No, it's
Um, there has to be another way to say it, but we'll just whatever. But when the bounty hunter, when Boba Fett actually had the signal and got his ship back, it actually landed on one of the swoop riders too.
yeah, basically, as Slave One pretty much just squashed him, which was funny. So, yep. So those were all the connections that I could find. Well, there is one more. Monaru, if you remember, the Russian female, which basically Dengar wanted to marry. She appeared in Payback, Tale of Dengar. You know the story where Dengar, well, pretty much rescues Boba Fett. So yeah, basically Tales of the Bounty Hunter is another reference. So which is interesting. So yeah, those are all the EU references. You got any others, the Django, that you can think of, or that's it?
No, that's it.
Okay, well then shall we go to the conclusion now?
Let's do it.
Okay, so now we go into the conclusion. So the Django thoughts on, well, this whole book.
So this comes as a recommendation from me, just dealing with the life of Boba Fett. With coming out of the Starlight Pit, Prince Zizor, and other things going along in the mix. It's just definitely a good start to the series, the Bounty Hunter Wars, and yeah, as something that kind of like a place like if you want to know more about Boba Fett and his life after Return of the Jedi, this is a great starting point for me. I would say, just to explore his character a lot more and to find out more about him, what happens to him and his character, and the events that revolve around him. This just definitely comes as a really high recommendation for me, and yeah, just a really great start to the series.
Okay. Well, as for me, well, I definitely think the same. In regards to basically, yeah, this book definitely being a great read. Definitely a start of a trilogy that we're definitely covering here in State of Star Wars in the upcoming weeks. So this definitely would be great to read. And well, I definitely do recommend reading this, especially if you're a Boba Fett fan, and especially the ones to see Boba Fett alive after Return of the Jedi. Yep, especially for that. And also getting more into the lives of the bounty hunters during the original trilogy era. That too. So, yeah, definitely recommendation from me. And well, with that, we finished the first book on the Bounty Hunter Wars. And so next week, we will be tackling The Slave Ship, Book 2. That'll be an interesting one. So stay tuned for that. And meanwhile, well, we'll see you guys on the next State of Star Wars video. Bye bye.
See you guys.